If you've been seeing posts on social media claiming that a new law called the Scam Act is going to strip citizenship from naturalized Americans, that green card holders will be deported without hearings, or that this bill will change everything about U.S. immigration starting in 2026, I need you to stop and take a breath because while there is a bill in Congress with that name, most of what you're seeing online is either exaggerated, taken out of context, or based on misunderstandings about what the bill actually says and whether it will even become law. You're not alone in feeling shocked or worried, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what the Scam Act is, what it does and doesn't do, who it affects, what is fact versus rumor, and most importantly, what you need to know right now to stay informed without panicking. Welcome to Immigration Law Alerts, where we give you clear, factual immigration information without the fear or the hype. So let's start by clarifying what the Scam Act actually is. SCAM is an acronym that stands for Stopping Citizenship for Alien Murderers Act. This is a bill that was introduced in the U.S. Congress in 2026. At the time of this recording, the Scam Act is still just a bill, which means it has been proposed, but it has not been passed by both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and it has not been signed into law by the President. This is a critical point to understand because many people online are talking about this bill as if it is already law and already being enforced, and that is not true. A bill is a proposal, and most bills that are introduced in Congress never actually become law. They may be debated, amended, voted down, or simply never brought to a vote at all. Now let me explain what the Scam Act proposes to do. The bill targets individuals who became U.S. citizens through naturalization and who are later convicted of certain serious crimes, specifically murder or voluntary manslaughter. If the bill were to become law, it would give the federal government the authority to revoke the citizenship of naturalized citizens who are convicted of these crimes, even if the crimes were committed after they became U.S. citizens. The bill would not apply to people who were born as U.S. citizens, only to people who became citizens through the naturalization process. Let me be very clear about what this bill does not do. It does not allow the government to take away citizenship from naturalized citizens for minor crimes, traffic violations, or immigration violations. It does not allow the government to strip citizenship without a legal process or court hearing. It does not apply to green card holders who have not yet naturalized, although green card holders can already be deported for certain criminal convictions under existing immigration law. It does not apply retroactively to people who were convicted of crimes before the law takes effect, assuming the bill even becomes law, and it does not affect people who were born as U.S. citizens either in the United States or abroad to U.S. citizen parents. Now let me address the most common rumors and misunderstandings circulating online about the Scam Act. Rumor number one, the Scam Act has already been signed into law and is being enforced now. This is false. As of this recording, the Scam Act is still a bill in Congress. It has not been passed by both chambers of Congress, and it has not been signed by the President. Even if it does pass, there will be a process for implementation, and it will not apply immediately or retroactively. Rumor number two, the Scam Act will strip citizenship from anyone who has ever been arrested or accused of a crime. This is false. The bill specifically targets people who are convicted, not just accused or arrested, of murder or voluntary manslaughter. Convictions require proof beyond a reasonable doubt in a criminal trial, and they come with the right to legal representation, the right to appeal, and other due process protections. Rumor number three, the Scam Act applies to green card holders and people with work permits or visas. This is false. The bill specifically applies only to naturalized U.S. citizens, meaning people who went through the naturalization process and became citizens. Green card holders, work permit holders, and visa holders are not U.S. citizens and therefore would not be affected by this bill. However, green card holders can already be deported for certain criminal convictions under existing immigration law, so the issue of criminal convictions affecting immigration status is not new. Rumor number four, the Scam Act allows the government to take away citizenship without any hearing or legal process. This is false. The bill would still require a legal process, and any attempt to revoke citizenship would be subject to constitutional protections, including the right to due process, the right to legal representation, and the right to challenge the revocation in court. The U.S. Constitution protects all people in the United States, including naturalized citizens, from arbitrary government actions. Rumor number five, the Scam Act is guaranteed to become law and will start being enforced immediately. This is speculation. While the bill has been introduced, there is no guarantee that it will pass. Many bills introduced in Congress never make it to a vote, and even if a bill does pass one chamber, it may not pass the other chamber or may be vetoed by the President. Even if the bill does become law, there would be an implementation process and legal challenges are almost certain. Now let me explain who would be affected by the Scam Act if it were to become law and who would not be affected. People who would potentially be affected include naturalized U.S. citizens, meaning people who were not born as U.S. citizens, but who went through the naturalization process and took the oath of citizenship, who are convicted in a court of law of murder, or voluntary manslaughter after the law takes effect. That is a very specific and narrow group of people. People who would not be affected include anyone who was born as a U.S. citizen either in the United States or abroad to U.S. citizen parents, naturalized citizens who have not been convicted of murder or voluntary manslaughter, naturalized citizens who have been convicted of crimes other than murder or voluntary manslaughter, green card holders who have not naturalized, people with work permits, visas, or other non-citizen immigration status, and anyone who has not been convicted of a crime. It is important to understand that under current law, naturalized citizens already have nearly all the same rights and protections as citizens who are born in the United States. The main difference is that naturalized citizens can have their citizenship revoked under very limited circumstances, such as if they obtained citizenship through fraud, or if they joined a terrorist organization within a certain time period after naturalizing. The Scam Act would expand the circumstances under which citizenship could be revoked, but it would still be limited to very serious criminal convictions and would still require a legal process. Let me now explain the legal and constitutional issues surrounding the Scam Act. The U.S. Constitution provides strong protections for citizenship, and the Supreme Court has ruled in multiple cases that citizenship cannot be taken away arbitrarily. Any law that allows for the revocation of citizenship must provide due process, meaning a fair legal process that includes notice, a hearing, the right to legal representation, and the right to appeal. If the Scam Act were to become law, it would almost certainly face legal challenges on constitutional grounds, and courts would have to determine whether the law complies with the Constitution. One key legal question is whether it is constitutional to treat naturalized citizens differently from citizens who were born in the United States. The Supreme Court has generally held that naturalized citizens have the same rights as native-born citizens, but there are some limited exceptions particularly related to how citizenship was obtained. The Scam Act would create a new difference between naturalized and native-born citizens, and courts would have to decide whether that difference is legally justified. Another legal question is whether revoking citizenship for crimes committed after naturalization violates the principle that citizenship is permanent once it is obtained. Historically, the U.S. government could revoke citizenship for certain actions that were seen as renouncing citizenship, such as swearing allegiance to a foreign government. But the Supreme Court has narrowed those circumstances over time. The Scam Act would represent a new approach to citizenship revocation based on criminal conduct rather than actions that suggest a renunciation of citizenship. Now let me talk about what you should do if you are worried about the Scam Act. First, understand that as of now, the Scam Act is not law and there is no guarantee that it will become law. Bills are introduced in Congress all the time and most of them do not pass. Even if this bill does pass, it would not apply to most people, and it would only affect naturalized citizens who are convicted of very serious crimes. Second, if you are a naturalized U.S. citizen, the best way to protect your citizenship is to avoid committing serious crimes. This may sound obvious, but it is the most important point. Naturalized citizens who follow the law and do not commit serious crimes have nothing to worry about from the Scam Act or any similar legislation. Third, if you are a naturalized citizen and you are facing criminal charges, it is critical that you work with a qualified criminal defense attorney who understands the potential immigration consequences of a criminal conviction. Even under current law, certain criminal convictions can have immigration consequences, and if the Scam Act or similar legislation becomes law, the stakes could be even higher. Fourth, stay informed through reliable and official sources. Follow updates from congress.gov where you can track the status of bills as they move through the legislative process. Follow updates from USCIS and other official immigration agencies. Follow trusted legal advocacy organizations that provide accurate analysis of proposed legislation. Do not rely solely on social media posts or rumors, because misinformation spreads quickly and can cause unnecessary fear and confusion. Fifth, if you have questions about your specific situation, consult with a qualified immigration attorney. Immigration law is complex and your situation is unique, so you need personalized legal advice from someone who is licensed and qualified to give it. Do not rely on advice from unlicensed consultants or notarios who may not have the legal training to give you accurate information. Now let me provide some broader context about citizenship revocation and denaturalization. The U.S. government already has the authority to revoke citizenship under certain circumstances, and this authority has existed for many years. The most common reason for denaturalization is fraud, which means that the person lied or concealed important information during the naturalization process. For example, if someone lied about their criminal history, lied about being a member of a terrorist organization, or lied about their identity in order to obtain citizenship, the government can initiate denaturalization proceedings to revoke that citizenship. Denaturalization is a legal process that involves filing a case in federal court. The government must prove its case, and the person whose citizenship is being challenged has the right to legal representation, the right to present evidence and witnesses, and the right to appeal if the court rules against them. Denaturalization cases are relatively rare, and they typically involve serious fraud or misrepresentation. The Scam Act would create a new basis for denaturalization that is based on criminal conduct after naturalization rather than fraud during the naturalization process. This would be a significant change in the law, and it would raise important legal and policy questions about the permanence of citizenship and the rights of naturalized citizens. Let me also address the emotional and psychological impact that news like this can have on immigrant communities. Even if the Scam Act does not become law, the fact that it has been proposed and is being discussed can create fear and anxiety, especially among naturalized citizens and people who are working towards citizenship. That fear is understandable and it is real. However, it is important to remember that fear should not prevent you from understanding your rights, seeking accurate information, or living your life. Immigration law alerts exist to provide you with calm, factual information so you can make informed decisions. Immigration rules and policies can change, but they rarely change overnight, and when they do change, there are legal processes and protections in place. If you are a naturalized citizen who follows the law, you should not live in fear of losing your citizenship. If you have concerns about your specific situation, talk to a qualified attorney who can give you advice based on your circumstances. Let me also remind you that the U.S. immigration system, despite its flaws and challenges, operates within a legal framework that includes constitutional protections and due process rights. Courts play an important role in reviewing laws and government actions to ensure they comply with the Constitution. If the Scam Act or any similar law is passed and is challenged in court, judges will evaluate whether the law is constitutional and whether it can be enforced. This system of checks and balances is designed to protect people from arbitrary or unjust government actions. Before I finish, let me summarize the key points. The Scam Act is a bill in Congress that proposes to allow the revocation of citizenship for naturalized citizens who are convicted of murder or voluntary manslaughter. The bill has not been passed and it is not currently law. If it does become law, it would only affect a narrow group of people, specifically naturalized citizens who are convicted of these very serious crimes. The bill would not affect people who were born as U.S. citizens, and it would not affect naturalized citizens who have not been convicted of these crimes. The bill would still require a legal process and would be subject to constitutional protections and legal challenges. Most importantly, naturalized citizens who follow the law have nothing to fear from this bill or any similar legislation. If this video helped you understand what the Scam Act is, what it does and doesn't do, who it affects, what is fact versus rumor, and what you should know, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to Immigration Law Alerts and turn on notifications so you stay informed with calm, factual immigration updates. Share this video with anyone in your community who might be worried or confused, and if you have specific immigration questions, leave them in the comments. I cannot give personal legal advice, but I can cover common questions in future videos. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay informed, know your rights, verify information before believing it, and if you need legal help, consult with a qualified immigration attorney.